Hi, I'm Carolyn Lovewell.
And I am Laila Matthews.
And we're here, well, you're listening to Sleepover Podcast. We're having a lovely time on my back patio. We got kids and Rory are in the cool tub. The hot tub has been repurposed to a cool tub for the summer. We have baby Christopher here is with us, nursing on Laila. And we were just chatting. I was chatting about how I've been going so hard on 12-step fellowships recently. Just basically like any fellowship for each and every of my problems. I'm like, give me a fellowship. I'm doing the 12 steps.
Every compulsion addressed.
I'm powerless.
Well, yeah, because last time we were hanging out, you turned me on to the amazing book, The Way of Powerlessness, Advaita and the 12 Steps. And for those listening who may or may not have heard of Advaita, it's, the Indian or Hindu, is it Hindu, Indian tradition?
It's
of non-dualism.
Yeah, it's like Advaita Vedanta.
Advaita Vedanta. Yeah. Is that Buddhist or is that?
No, that's Hindu.
Okay, so it's the Hindu school of non-dualism. And I've always been way into that. That's always been very exciting to me. And the writer Wayne Liquorman expounds upon how the 12 steps are essentially a way to realize one own's powerlessness and thereby reclaim sanity.
Yeah, he talks about it in a really deep, beautiful way because, there's lots of spiritual traditions that'll talk about the ego and the problems with the ego, but, the problem really isn't saying I or, knowing that, I'm Carolyn and you're Laila.
Right.
That's not really the problem. The problem is, as he outlines, and I think he does it really brilliantly, it's this false sense of authorship. This idea that we seem to have that we are responsible for our actions and that we should receive credit and blame and pride and remorse and I don't know, all of these things that really creates suffering.
You're right.
So his definition of enlightenment is being free. Hey, Lulu, could you simmer it down just a little bit? His definition is being free of that pride and free of that guilt and really just knowing that all actions are done by the larger self with a capital S. That's the doer. The self is the doer. The self is the enjoyer. It's totally in line with a lot of
the Tao flows through us.
The Tao. It's the Tao. It's the Upanishads. It's,
the holy guardian angel is just doing you. You're the vehicle. You're the vessel. All things are done by God through us, and we don't have to feel so fucking smug about the things that we do right, and we don't have to feel so torn up about the things that we don't.
Because there's a great mystery happening, and I've been getting a lot of serenity from that lately, which is the self is using me, my vices and my virtues, in ways that I don't understand for a larger, mosaic, grand artwork that is beyond my little comprehension. So, I don't know, I experienced that very vividly through time loops, so I highly recommend to everybody to do, weird thelemic magic and time loop dream work so you can really experience that vividly.
Yeah, well, I think it's funny that we are so jazzed. I mean, anyway, it makes perfect sense to me and is also hilarious that we are so jazzed on the way of powerlessness and, powerlessness, non-dualism, emptiness, and the Tao, because I feel like many people probably come to the podcast or come to listening to us through your work on magic, which I think at the outset seems very much and is very appealing to the false sense of authorship and the ego of I'm going to get what I want. I'm going to make this world conform to my wishes. And I do think that the purpose of one of the great geniuses of the magical Western path is that it does appeal to that part of oneself that's yes, I will create the world to my liking, and then effortlessly and miraculously, as one progresses as a magician, one comes to realize that thy will is always done, but it is not necessarily the vow that one would think that it was.
Yeah, it's not the socially conditioned self that gets what it wants. It's Definitely, it's the deeper self. But that is so much fun. That's what's so the great bait and switch Hermes trickery of Hermeticism.
Totally.
Is like we always start out with like, oh, would you like to get what you want? Check out this law of attraction we have here. We'll show you how to resonate in tune with what's really good. And you know, and it's all true. Like I absolutely have created, you know, synchronous, amazing results using magic. But it's like, who really created those results? How did that really
Precisely.
happen? And then it's like when you start to wake up to it. Magic has a sneaky way of waking you up to the non-dual nature of things.
Yeah,
and it's really fun.
I one time had a very deep download on the truth of this path, and I recorded it as best I could on YouTube as a talking on the Luciferian path of like beginning as a magus, feeling very empowered and very much willing to be like, you're wrong, God, the way that things are sucks and I'm gonna make it happen for myself, only to be transformed. And if anyone feels like searching through the YouTube channel whatever archives, you might find it, and it's, I think, it's the most concise download on this path that I've been able to verbalize, and if I try and say it again now, it will only be garbled.
Well, I love that, and I love what also got us started today was we were talking about the 12 steps, and I was telling you about my recent recovery into a greater degree of honesty in my relationship, where I'm like saying no more, like, no, I don't feel like listening to you right now, I love you, I'll talk to you later, instead of like, oh yes, I'll listen to you, even though I would rather beat you up than empathically listen to you. Yeah. You know, like really is coming to a deeper level of honesty with myself of like how I was violating my own boundaries in the name of some imaginary virtue or imaginary, like, you know, basically trying to placate, trying to like control the situation by, I think it's also called fawning in today's trauma parlance.
Yeah, and so we were talking about how, like, this has been very revelatory for me, and maybe it's obvious to some of you listening, but maybe this will blow your own minds as well, that, like, honesty is, in many ways, the primary virtue, and I used to think that one could only be honest if one was already behaving virtuously so that it was okay to be honest about what you were doing. And otherwise, you should definitely lie to cover up your other non-virtues.
I think that is foundational addict thinking.
But I feel like that, like, doesn't the majority of people, how many people are born with the virtue of true honesty, of being like, hey, I fucked up, and I'm going to be totally honest about the degree to which I fucked up and the bad thing that I did. Like, that's honestly advanced thinking.
Oh, it's super advanced. I think maybe Paramahansa Yogananda was born with that, and everybody else, no. But
yeah, lying shit.
It's yes, exactly. No, it's absolutely true that, like, yeah, the majority of humanity, I mean, it's miraculous when people learn to have integrity. It's an incredible achievement.
Well, yeah, and I guess it was, like, liberating to me because I was like, oh, wow, I can actually have, like, this authentic virtue first. Like, I do not have to be perfect in order to be honest. I can be completely honest about my non-virtuousness and thereby bootstrap myself into greater virtuousness.
You know what's interesting? It's just as you were talking about this, I think that there's, to me, really, like, so one of the things that I think the 12 Steps does, like 12-step fellowships, is provide, like, basic training in virtue, similar to the way that, like, the Hinayana path in Buddhism teaches, you know, right speech, right action, right, you know, don't steal, don't sell people liquor for a living, don't, you know, it teaches, and then, you know, advanced occultism is a lot like Tantra in Buddhism, which is, you know, visualizing yourself as the deity and has a lot less rules. And I feel like I've seen many times, like, I feel like a lot of my success with magic comes from the fact that I did have a grounding in 12-step basic virtue training, where it's like, you need to be honest. You need to be honest. If you get too much cash back at the cash register, you need to give them the right amount back and tell them they gave you too much. You need precise honesty in all your dealings, or else you're going to use heroin again. And when they told me that, I was like, okay, I don't want to use heroin again. I will do whatever you tell me to do. And, you know, it really worked and it really changed my being. And then there's like the deeper levels of honesty, like I was just talking about, like learning to be honest when I don't feel like listening to my partner and recognizing my internal yes and no. But what I'm trying to say is, I feel like I've seen plenty of people in occult circles who have not learned basic self-honesty, who are fucking delusional and hurting themselves with all the trappings of magic, because really you have to have foundational honesty in order to make progress esoterically.
I was thinking about this exact same thing, Carolyn, and I'm so glad that you said it better than me, that so much of magic is about getting one's desire, or attempting to get one's desire. But I, working with hundreds of people on this topic, see that is like a huge struggle for people to be honest about what they desire. And a lot of people, like, it can go both ways, where sometimes people are so afraid of asking for the grand thing that they actually really want that they will just be like, okay, small things. I'll just ask for like little stuff. And conversely, people will be super, super afraid of, or super like embarrassed by their small and humble, authentic wants. And they'll be focusing on like, I want to be a billionaire. I want to have 100 clients. I want to, blow up the world.
Well, what they really want is a nice bathtub.
Yeah.
And they really want like flowers on their table every day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. Like simple, joyful things. And like, and I think a lot of what ends up not working for people in their magic is the mismatch between what they actually want and what they're doing magic for. And I think you said that brilliantly in, Influence, where it's like you can cast magic for whatever you think you want, and you will get immediate feedback on what you actually do want. Because if it works, then you wanted that. And if it doesn't, then chances are some unconscious part of you just actually doesn't really want that thing. Mm-hmm. It is not the will of the greater self for you to have that. So time to be more honest.
Yeah, well, and there's a lot of deep things, like, I could give some caveats to that. Like, one of my favorite fun things to think about is the time I did a Venus talisman for a boyfriend. I was in a sex cult at the time, but I didn't have a boyfriend, and that was pissing me off. And unfair. I wanted somebody, to take me out on dates and listen to me. So I did a Venus talisman, and I got a boyfriend, like, immediately, and I was very pleased initially, and he was a completely crazy, abusive asshole. He was, like, totally gonzo, nuts. He, like, ended up throwing a ceramic coffee mug at my head. And, I could have blamed the Venus talisman. I could have been like, oh, look, magic doesn't work. I thought it worked, but it just got me this shitty guy. What the fuck? But the truth is that a deep, fucked up, amazing, beautiful part of me really enjoyed all of that madness. I mean, that guy was crazy jealous, crazy. Like, I could
Well, he got you a boyfriend.
It got me a boyfriend. Anyways, what I learned about that was, like, it did get me what I wanted. Venus got me what I wanted, which was tons of drama, tons of attention, so much like somebody who was completely obsessed with me. That was what I wanted.
Ideal boyfriend material.
And so I feel like magic, especially results magic, like we're talking about, is a deep process of refinement, a deep process of learning. I had to learn, like, okay, I can embrace the fact that I got what I wanted, and my desire can evolve through fulfillment. So I had this experience of somebody being completely obsessed with me. I can let go of that. The next one doesn't have to be completely obsessed with me.
Right, exactly. And if a sane and like reasonable man had come into your life and wanted to date you, you probably would have been like, I can't even see this person's desire for me because it's so not actually what I want.
It was not what I was attuned for at all. It would have been, I'm sure there were, like, nice,
but it was invisible.
Completely invisible and completely undesirable to me.
Yeah.
So, anyways,
you only can get what you really want.
Can only get what you really deeply want. So, so like that's also, it's a fascinating, ongoing thing. And like, so my marriage is interesting. Like, David and I have ups and downs and contentiousness. And it's also interesting to me that when I'm really honest with myself, I get so much entertainment, so much like deep satisfaction out of my relationship. It's not unsatisfying in the least for however much trauma it has. It's very satisfying.
Girl, I feel you. Me and my sister, I have been talking about being unsober. I have been talking to my sister on the phone for hours over the last week about drama in her relationship because I don't have enough drama in my own relationship, that I'm just like a complete fucking gossip vampire on my sister's drama. And like, yes, the virtuous part of me is like, oh, I'm so glad that this is resolving. I'm so glad that this drama is ending. I'm so happy for my sister to like be exiting this situation. And there is a fucking gremlin in me that is like, no, but wait, just like maybe just like stay connected to the source of drama like a little bit more. Just what are we gonna talk about if you're not having this amazing intense drama? Fuck. And at least I can be honest about that.
Well, that's also why meetings are so wonderful, because there's never a shortage of other people's drama. They're like a perfect vampiric
yeah. I'm just feeling very glad that I can be honest about my tea vampiring, and that makes me more virtuous than if I were lying and pretending that I didn't love gossip. Right. Yes, my little Brucey. 1 second, my son is asking my attention. She's singing. Yeah, she's happy. She's singing.
Lulu sings a lot.
Well, then you will have to go elsewhere.
No, I'm not singing because I'm happy. Sometimes I sing when I'm mad.
Sometimes you sing when you're mad. You sing for a host of reasons.
She's processing herself through song. Kids are amazing.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, yeah. So, honesty as the primary virtue is really just turning me on lately.
Yeah. Well,
getting more free.
It really is the key. I think it is so much the key to everything, because it allows. It's like it's the balancing force for all the other virtues, right? Like it's Mott. Mott is divine truth, divine order. And when we have that
saying
honesty,
it like it is.
Yeah.
I mean, that just, I don't know. I guess I feel like a little bit of an idiot talking about this, because it really honestly never occurred to me, like, until a couple years ago, that, like, honesty is not reserved for the perfectly virtuous. Like, that, I don't know why it never occurred to me. Like, it's just so mind-blowing.
Well, speaking about the snowballing effect of honesty. So something in this book that we've been enjoying, The Way of Powerlessness by Wayne Liquorman, he comes from this tradition, like we were saying, from Advaita Vedanta, which is all about the powerlessness of the individual self. And for me, I find that that's really like a fundamental truth, that when I let that truth in... Wait, let's simmer down a little bit, Lulu, please. Mommy and Layla are talking. If you could sing a little quieter.
I sing loud when I'm
Okay.
It's probably not so bad, because they're far away.
It's probably not on... Right.
They're far away.
Where was I? It's a fundamental truth. That when I let that truth in, it opens up space for more truth in my being. And it opens up, it opens up a lot of serenity. And it seems to be like, it's like the disinfecting power of sunshine.
Right.
That comes into my, like, it's like, I like to meditate on it.
Yeah.
Because I feel like that helps it sink into my unconscious. And it's like bringing the sunlight of Tifereth into the murky waters of Yesod.
Totally.
And it opens me, and when I get that spaciousness and the serenity that comes from like the relief and guilt and pride, in that spaciousness, it seems like I do get, clearer inner direction about like...
Totally. Well, and I thought that the discussion that he gave in the chapter on powerlessness was mind-blowing, and I guess I just want to try to sum it up for our listeners so that you might get a taste of this. The kind of honesty, so it's one thing to say, like, yeah, I'm powerless, but, like, what the fuck does that mean? But I really thought that it was genius the way he was like, okay, so we have the false sense of authorship has this delusional notion that the way that things work is that I have an intention, I have a thought and an intention, and then I act on that thought or I behave in accordance with that intention. And that's just the way that it works. And that's what makes me a powerful author of my own experiences. My thoughts, my actions follow my thoughts. But he's like, if you think about it, that just happens a fraction of the time.
Teeny fraction.
A tiny fraction of the time. How many times do we think to ourselves like, oh yeah, I'm totally going to pick that up. I'm totally going to clean up after myself. And then you just fucking don't. You just leave it there. Or you think to yourself like, I'm going to start exercising every day. And then you just don't. You just really don't. Or like, oh, I'm not going to eat another piece of chocolate. And then you do. And then it just happens. And it's just done. And the Tao just has you eat another piece of chocolate. And your thoughts and your intentions and your wishes about what you're going to do basically have nothing to do at all with what you do. And when you really become honest in an introspective way about the lack of correlation, the lack of causation between your thoughts and your intentions and your best wishes for yourself and what you actually do, you come to realize that you are not actually doing yourself hardly at all.
You're basically just a finger puppet of God. Yeah. Just a funny little jelly finger puppet being wiggled around.
Maybe you should sing.
That's what's happening.
And it's okay. It's fine. You couldn't do it otherwise, even if you tried to wrest control back, get your hands on the steering wheel, like it just wouldn't work. You don't have that power. It's not up to you.
And it's such a relief because I don't know if it's that book where he talks about it or if it's another book, but he talks about how like if you think you have a little bit of power, that's fucking stressful. Like if you think you have some amount of power and you have to figure out how to use it correctly, how to like leverage it.
Yeah.
You need something for the baby?
I just need a diaper for the baby.
And yeah, if you think you have a little bit of power, but like you don't have much, that's very scary. That's very stressful. But when you really relax into the fact that like, it's zero. It's like whether or not I have the inspiration and that follow through to do work today, whether or not I'm kind and saintly or a complete jerk, it's all not up to me. Like every thought and intention, every action comes from the larger self. I have no control over it. Like that's quite relaxing. It's like very deeply I love to think about it when I'm in the float tank. It just makes me so happy. It's my happy thought.
Yeah. Well, and I like what Wayne shares. And like the wisdom
of Christopher, baby. That's the baby Christopher getting his diaper changed.
I like the wisdom of the 12 steps that like the best thing that you could possibly do with your own will is to pray for the willingness to surrender. Yeah. Like that's the best thing you could ever do. And the best thing to do with your sense of self is to have a good sense of humor.
Well, I feel like there was some line, I was reading a Florence Farr essay, and I feel like she said something about, like, the purpose of the ego, like, being purely for humor. And it just, like, really illumined me, because I feel like that was, like, a question that bothered me for a long time. Like, well, if I'm just being done by the larger self, why do I even have a sense of independence? I didn't, why did I inherit this? What's going on? And when I realized what it was, I don't know, I just clicked for me. I was like, it's pure hilarity. It's pure
comedy.
Ironic comedy. That's what's happening. And then I was like, oh. Just comedic tension between reality and what I imagine reality to be. That's the only reason. Oh, the soft little head, the little baby.
This little baby. Well, exactly. Amazing. Yep. Oh.
Lulu sings when she's mad, and she's mad. I don't care what you say, I'm just really mad.
Well, I feel like I've exhausted my genius for the day.
Well, I think this is fantastic. What was I thinking about? We could wrap up. I was just seeing if there was any other thoughts rambling around in there. Well, you've been watching Game of Thrones for the first time, right, Layla?
Oh, yeah.
What are you learning?
What am I
And
learning?
by the way, nobody can cry about spoilers because this show has been out for a long ass time. So
Yeah, exactly. What have I been learning? I don't know. I guess my deepest contemplation on Game of Thrones, and if you don't care, that's fine. I don't care. I really enjoy the juxtaposition of the two characters, Varys and Littlefinger, because I think from the outside they seem very similar: spy, intrigue, deceitful, manipulator, liars.
But Viserys has a heart of gold.
Varys is the only one who cares about the larger vision and like the greater
little people
good,
and
the
the-
little people. Whereas Littlefinger is like completely in it for himself. And it was just really making me think about like how, the actions can be identical, but the like intent is what makes the difference. Like the place that it's coming from, like is it selfish or is it selfless? Like, you can be a villain. You can appear to be a villain, but be working for the greater good. Or you can appear to be a villain and, like, actually be a fucking villain in it only for yourself. I don't know. It just was...
It's
one of my deep contemplations.
Well, see, I asked you that because I feel like there were all sorts of beautiful contemplations that came up for me through the genius of George R.R. Martin and the dramaturgs at HBO who made that. I just feel like it's a masterpiece, except for the last season, which everybody knows really sucks.
That's the season we're watching right now, and we can barely get through episodes because Rory just pauses it and is like, I can't believe how bad this is.
It's so bad. It's like, how did they let it get so bad when it was so good?
This is my analysis, is that show was originally written by a genius and then translated through some other geniuses to create genius. And then somehow, in the 4th season, the genius material was gone, and the writing crew changed, maybe, and they were just like, okay, bro, like, I know what this show is about. This show is, like, totally about, like, intrigue, okay? So, like, we're just gonna, like, say that it's intrigue, and, like, yeah, like, those people don't like each other, so, like, write it down, like, they don't like each other, say that. And, like... It's just like the bro translation filtered down, like the genius filtered through a bro brain and then just like written in bro speak.
Yeah, I mean, I liked some of the epic battles in the later seasons, but
they were necessary.
The character development became, it stopped.
Well, they were just like, say it. Say the thing that you feel about the person. It's like, okay, but show, don't tell. And they're like, just tell it. Just tell the story. That's how I interpreted it.
Yeah. So it was, but I like that point about Varys and Littlefinger, and that's, yeah.
They were both like spy masters. They're both lying, conniving, backstabber types, but like Varys was looking out for the greater good.
You know what I think also gave me that vibe from that show is, okay, so there's the sept, who's like a priest or whatever. So there's the priest at the high temple who's like condemning Marjorie and everybody. And makes
the high sparrow.
The high sparrow.
Yes.
And then they have, Lulu, could we just chill? Could you go over there and shout really loud, pretty please? I know you're angry. Okay. But they also had an episode where it was like the same guy who plays Mr. Wednesday in American Gods.
Oh, yeah.
He's like guest starring.
Yes, he's like a humble
And he's a humble
septon.
septon who's like, helping the people build a church.
Yeah.
And it's like he doesn't care.
He's like running a 12-step meeting.
He's
out
basically
in the middle.
running a 12-step meeting. He's like not into dogma. He's not into judging anybody. He's just like, I want to get these people together and get them, connected to something larger than themselves so they can be happy, because that's where happiness comes from, is a common purpose. And
Totally.
And I'm getting chills thinking about it because it's so true. And then there's like the crazy high sparrow guy that's like, everybody gotta behave and I'll mess with you.
Right. I'm so virtuous that I'm going to kill people in the name of enforcing virtue on everyone. Which is, dangerous zealotry.
Yes, anyways, I've enjoyed a lot of those kinds of contrasts in Game of Thrones, like the fictional art of the showing and not telling. What are some other fun contrasts in Game of Thrones? Well, like, I just, all of the ways that you can be a powerful woman or a woman who gives her power away, or those, the fun contrasts there. Well, anyways, I just wanted to
We love
milk
that show.
more content from you, Layla. So
Yeah.
I'm just trying to get more Layla-isms
Well,
in one episode.
I do have
I mean,
to-
the people have missed you. I mean, last time
Oh.
they had to listen to me interpret Neil's dream. I mean, actually, there might be some people, like, on a cliffhanger waiting for Neil to dialogue with his dream characters. I don't know. I mean, it was a very revealing dream. I don't know if Neil fully understands how revealing it was. Bless you, Neil. I love you.
Tell me the goss. What happened?
Well, you gotta listen to the episode. It really, I mean...
I've just been talking about what a gossip hound I am.
I mean,
so,
I feel like maybe Neil understands how much was revealed. I shouldn't underestimate Neil. Neil's a deep person.
Neil is a deep
It's
person
a very
moved by the
vulnerable
Tao.
thing. It's a very vulnerable thing to have one's dreams interpreted live on a podcast, I think.
true.
And maybe what I'm saying is I don't want Neil to do his dialogue with a dream character live because I feel like it's a tender, vulnerable thing, and that I want to protect him from.
Aww.
But
Well, you can't make that decision for him.
I can't,
Carolyn.
though.
That would be you violating his will.
I feel like I should edit this part out. How do I edit
what
it?
do you mean, no?
I feel like Neil's gonna listen to it, and Neil's might be hurt that I'm like Neil, too much was revealed in your dream. You might not feel that way at all.
I'm gonna vouch for Neil. He's not gonna. I would be shocked.
All right, Neil, I'm just gonna talk about it, Neil. I'm just gonna say what I'm thinking about your dream.
We're all friends. We all know that we're talking
So,
about
Neil,
each other.
we were talking about, Neil, when you and I had a conversation in the car, also for the podcast, about your theory of relationships and, the part of you that maybe wanted to be married, but maybe didn't want to commit to that idea because you wanted to be in the flow of the Tao. I thought that might have some resonance with the character in your dream who is very similar to you, who's a runner, who's running away. I think, Neil, to me, it seems there might be running from intimacy. I could be completely wrong. It's your psyche. I don't fully understand what's happening. But that's just my little womanly sense there, Neil, because I want, very selfishly, I want you to have a fun wedding that I get to go to.
Oh, yeah. Neil's wedding would be dope. There would be, like, video VJing. There would be great snacks.
Yeah. I
would
almost
have a
think
great
that
wedding.
Neil would just be like, if were Neil deciding to be fully in a relationship, I
Yes.
feel like he would really just be a great husband to
He
somebody.
1,000% would. 1,000% would. I thankfully think that Neil is a selfish asshole for keeping himself.
That's what I'm
himself.
saying. That's what I'm really trying to say. You're a fucking asshole, Neil, and that's what your dream reveals now.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Is I think you're an asshole, Neil, keeping yourself to yourself so selfishly. Although I do see Neil be a wonderful, wonderful friend to many people. And in Neil's, if I could maybe speak in Neil's defense, I think one of the reasons that he would not like being married is that he likes to be able to be available for many people.
And that
in
is
a
so
deep and
sweet.
intimate
And that is
way.
so wonderful. And it's just obviously I want everybody to have to like burn in the same alchemical cauldron that I'm burning in. Obviously that's like my demented wish. So I think that Neil, you're doing just fine. You're doing great. There may be something to look into with that doctor who's running away.
And maybe you're doing fine, and also we want you to suffer for your own good because we love you.
I mean, Neil knows this. I've told him this to his face. Like, Neil, I want you to suffer the pains of love.
Yes.
I want you to really just dive in, completely render yourself vulnerable, maybe like legally mix your property with somebody else's and
maybe-
really
yeah,
put it on
exactly.
the line,
Exactly. Get sloppy with it. It's too neat. He's so neat. So monk-like. We love you, Neil.
We love you so much, Neil.
Thank you for
You're
letting us
perfect.
spill
I'm
your
sorry.
tea.
I'm such a... Anyways.
Carolyn, let's be honest. You were probably going to tell me about, if we had started talking about Neil privately, you would have 1,000% told me about this dream and told me your analysis of it. So let's just display our insane honesty.
You haven't listened to the podcast, so you don't even know. There's so much more to the dream, though, because at the end of the dream, so he's in a hospital. Just recap, everybody. Recap season 1 of Neil's dream. He's being driven by his mother in a car through a valley that's familiar to him from his childhood.
Perverse.
He gets out of the car. He goes into a hospital. He does not exactly sure why he's in the hospital, but
Because he's sick.
But he has some sort of day pack on, and he seems to have a mission that he needs to get through the hospital to the other side so he can be reunited with his mother again. That's the only motive that he's aware of.
Okay.
And there appears a doctor who's like jogging and very healthy and helpful, who leads him through some of the hospital, but leads him through a back door that's not really at the end of the hospital. Leads him astray, sort of. And he's on the roof of the hospital where there's a pool and there's some homeless people hanging out. There's a guy with a dog. And then he comes back into the hospital. And inside the hospital, in the basement, there's a pool of water and there's people hanging out having fun. But they're scared because there's a monster in the water. And the monster ends up grabbing him, and it's actually a merneal.
Whoa, merneal.
There's a merneal. So it's Neil, but like a sea monster Neil.
The underwater shadow Neil.
Yes.
Whoa, who pulls him down?
So the way that I see it, there's at least two shadow figures here, because there's the doctor who's running.
And leading him astray.
And there's the merneal trying to pull him down into the depths.
Right, and everybody's supposedly having a good time, but they are scared.
Yeah.
Deep.
And there's the desire for the reunion with the mother, obviously. So that's like, there's the deep feminine element there. Yeah. There's something about childhood.
Something about being sick. Going to the hospital.
Anyways, obviously I've been thinking about your dream, Neil, and I just feel like there's a lot in there still to be worked on.
Yeah. Wow. Deep. Love that.
But very, very brave. And
yeah.
But this is what I'm saying, Layla, is without you to do podcasts with me, I'm just like, so what did you dream about, Neil? And
Neil's revealing the depths of his psyche out to the world.
And let me surgically, maybe I can make fun of you for it. How about that?
Well,
because I'm such a trustworthy dream guide. I'm feeling so guilty right now. It's the Tao. It's the Tao that made fun of you, Neil.
You guys are just talking about honesty. This is great. Should we reveal the secret of the tacos?
We love Neil. We love Neil so much. I don't even feel like Neil would be upset at this episode.
Okay.
I want to send it to him immediately and be like, Neil, how do you feel about this? And he'll be like, I'm so honored that you're talking about me. That's my guess.
Okay.
If it were me, that's how I'd feel.
He might not trust me with another dream now that I've said that he revealed too much, though.
Well, because Neil, that's part of what the dream revealed, I think. Is Neil's not wanting to reveal himself.
Well, anyways,
that would have
Neil.
nothing to do with you, Carolyn.
Okay, I'll let it go. I'll let it go.
He will trust you.
It was fun. It's very deeply fun.
We're having fun.
And I'm interested in the unconscious becoming conscious.
Yeah.
And
Not right now.
sometimes it's so much fun for me that I get carried away.
I hope you guys talk about me when I'm not around. I give you permission.
Oh, great. Well, I'm happy to talk about some of the dreams that you've shared with me. Let me tell you, everybody, they are fucked up.
I know. I had that one dream where, like, the girls were getting murdered with, like, runes carved in them.
That one was epic.
That was an epic
That was
dream.
really deep.
Man.
There was something about peeing in a restaurant. There was one about that.
Oh, yeah, the one where I was getting ice cream and then the person, yeah, oh my God, my stinginess kink in that dream and like, oh yeah, going to the bathroom and then revealing and then like seeing that I was peeing in the bathroom in front of a giant plate glass window and everyone could see me peeing. Yeah, oh man, that dream was deep.
I remember that dream.
Yeah, and then like dying in my dad's minivan. I have a lot of dreams where I crash in a vehicle and like I die in the dream or like just go completely off the rails in a vehicle. Just whatever that might mean.
I mean, usually a
driver.
loss of ego control.
Yeah. I have a lot of dreams about that. And then often I die in the dream and then wake up. That's the mechanism by which.
That's really cool. I can't ever remember dying in a dream and waking up. Huh.
That happens to me quite often. I had a dream last night and it was weird. It was just like a very conversational, kind of like basic dream, such that when I recalled it this morning, I was like, was that actually a conversation that I had with like people? I didn't even remember it as a dream. I was like, oh, but I was having this conversation with this couple. and they were like, oh yes, Bernard, you're a Bernard. Isn't that a name that's given to, isn't that a name of, a European aristocrat? And I was like, yeah, it is. But like, I didn't know that, so I was like bullshitting. And then I was like, but I'm just a common Bernard, so it's not like that. And then in the dream I was thinking like, and that's not even my real last name, I just like took that last name, so I'm not even that. So that was my dream about being a complete liar and charlatan and not having the identity that I claim to have.
Yeah, fascinating. Wait a second. Rory, did you have anything you wanted to add to today's podcast? Rory's out of the tub now.
Well, I've been indulging my mega nerd and going super deep on Game of Thrones lore. So I just want to say, if you're interested in Varys as a character, y'all should check out Bloodraven, who is actually the old guy in the tree that trains Bran. He's actually a Targaryen bastard that used to be Hand of the King. And he does more fucked up things, but for the greater good. So if that's the kind of thing you're interested in, he's a compelling character.
You learned about him from reading the books, or?
I learned about him by watching a YouTube channel called Alt-Shift-X, where this guy does really great, humorous, interesting deep dives on just nerdy Song of Ice and Fire details.
For me and Rory to binge 8 seasons of Game of Thrones.
No.
Rory had to also binge the YouTube channel.
I didn't watch all the episodes with you, though. You got through quite a bit with me dropping in and out.
It's true.
What else did I want to add?
You're hot.
I heard, well, now I'm like, how much do I reveal about our personal lives?
As much as you want. You have 20 minutes. We are recording an hour. I have to go run and go
Wow.
to the restroom, but you tell the people at home what you want.
Okay, listeners, I guess you're in my hands now. Wow. Well, I've been reading Advanced Magic for Beginners by Alan Chapman, and I've actually been taking a group of amazing magicians through reading that book and doing a lot of the magical experiments in that book.
Yeah, so if you're interested in following along, you should join Electric Yes.
Yeah, for those of you who don't know, Electric Yes is our amazing online magic and existential kink community. It has incredible value. You can go on there if you're just to hang out with more people that are into magic and EK. And for $100 a month, you could get on a call with a certified EK coach once a week and get coaching.
And that's only one kind of call. We have like at least 12 to 15 calls a month of various valuable formats, one of which is this Advanced Magic for Beginners book club that Rory's doing, which I'll let him tell you more about now.
Yeah, so it's a lot to get into, and it'd be more fun to have a discussion with Laila and Carolyn about the details. But I've just got a renewed big turn on for magic and experimenting with sort of the science of how magic works, and we're discovering a lot of people are having a lot of success with trying out these different exercises Chapman provides, and we've been learning a lot about asking for smaller things, which I believe has a lot to do with having this level. We've been learning a lot about the energy and attitude going into doing a magical working. I've been finding that it helps quite a bit if whatever the result that you're going for is something that you want to move towards rather than staying focused on what you want to move away from. Maybe there's something linked here, Laila, with like what you've been exploring with powerlessness. But I feel like when people are doing magic because they're like, I'm a no to something that's currently happening, and they are sort of in a antagonistic position with reality, that's really not the best place for the most efficacious magical workings. And it does have to do with like, are you trying to move away from something, or are you trying to move towards something? And maybe that seems like a subtle difference, but you know what I really noticed? I was going for a run the other day, and somebody had a political sign in their yard that just said nope, with Trump's hair piece on top of it, and then it said not again. And I just struck by the fact that this sign really lets me know what this person is against, but not what they're for.
Yeah,
and the magical working they're doing is invoking Trump.
Right.
Even though they're saying no, I don't like it.
Right.
They are invoking the thing they don't like
in
in an attempt to be against it, and in an energetic consciousness way, paying more attention and thus giving it more power.
Yeah, I just recently started following Nicole Daydone on Instagram, and she just posted the other day that was like, people who are not aligned with their own purpose create an identity out of that which they oppose.
Right.
And I thought that was just a deep and concise observation on like the difference between having like a genuine purpose and like yes and magnetic electric alignment with what you like really are all about.
Yeah.
Or what the Tao wants to work through you,
Yes.
as opposed to being like, not this other shit, fuck that, I'm gonna do, like my purpose is to fight against these things is not the same as a constructive purpose.
Yeah, and I just encourage all of you to explore the subtleties of that, because I've found that I did one magical working recently that I felt very excited and turned on about, and it flowed very easily. And I felt very in line with the results I was asking for, and also detached. There's a certain level of detachment that is, I think, key as well. And then I started preparing for another working and then abandoned it.
That's like the powerlessness thing of like, you can want what you want, but you can't attach the like inflation of your own ego to the result. I feel like that's what the attachment is about. It's not about not wanting what you actually want. It's about not making meaning about yourself, whether you get it or not.
Sure, that's a very good point. And I did feel there was a level of like, once I've done the working, the thing is already done outside of a linear time perspective. And once it's already done, you can apply the desire evolves through fulfillment. Once it's already done, I don't need to spend my energy hoping for it or wishing for it anymore. It is already done, even if in linear time I don't quite have all of it yet.
Yeah.
Yeah, there was another thing I was going to say earlier, but I forgot now about the invoking what you don't want. I was saying I started preparing. I've been getting into bind runes since David turned me on to rune workings. And I was preparing a bind rune for another working, and then I realized that I was motivated through a like anger and dissatisfaction with the way things were, and that was not the case with the previous working, and I abandoned it because I was like, I don't think this is the right, most magically efficacious. I have more of a weird sensational turn on around how much I'm not okay with the way things are than I am turned on by like the future vision that I do want. And I feel like that makes a difference in terms of magical works.
Indeed.
Yeah. Do you have any thoughts on this, Carolyn?
Oh, it makes a huge difference. Yeah, well, I know, I was just like reflecting on this recently about how like all sexual energy is magical energy. And like for many years, I feel like I had a lot of sexual charge around images or fantasies of devaluation. And wouldn't you know, I kept having experiences where I felt devalued or insulted or, anyways, and I put a lot of effort into switching so that I could experience a sense of turn on and a sense of passion and fulfillment about the idea of being just like so completely valued, so loved, so adored and cherished and welcomed and embraced. And since I've done that, I've had a big switch in. I feel much more consistently valued and honored in all areas of my life. And anyways, but it wasn't, how do I say, like, it's definitely been the case that there's been times when I've had an intellectual idea about something that I would like to have, but I've had way less pleasure in connection with that idea than with the drama of the present. Yeah, so it's like, so that's where the solution of existential kink and like fully enjoying the drama that's already present and appreciating how satisfied I am seems to help evolve that thing. Yes. Hold on, Lulu. I guess we're gonna wrap up. That's it for today, folks. Thank you so much for tuning in to the Sleepover Podcast. You can like, subscribe, tell your friends. We so appreciate you. You're so basically the coolest people on earth who are interested in these topics that we are also so interested in. You can visit the Immortal College website, theimmortalcollege.com, to join our email list, so you'll get lots of messages from us and know about our doings and what courses. Hold on, honey. what courses we're offering, and
You can sign up for Electric Yes there too.
you can sign up for Electric Yes. Electric Yes is open, which is our ongoing membership program, which features lots of existential kink coaching and plenty of magic and social events.
And hanging out with me and Rory and Carolyn.
And hanging out with Rory and Layla and me in various online events. And yeah, thanks for tuning in. Bye-bye.